Today we welcome Vincas Sruoginis, the creator of Invisible Front, and also of many other exciting projects that he's going to share with us. Labas and welcome, Vincai.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's nice to chat with you again.
Thank you. We did chat this summer when we had the Lithuanian English version of the Lithuanian radio program. So it's very nice to put a face to your voice.
Yes, exactly. So, thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, your film, Invisible Front, was immediately loved and extremely well received by international Lithuanian audiences. How was that experience? Can you share a little bit about how that changed your life?
Well, I mean, it was the fact that it was well received. The fact that it made it out there at all is kind of still surprises me because you can never explain to anyone how incredibly difficult, time-consuming, and risky it is to make a film. Like, you never know what's going to happen, and a lot of times, you just got to keep powering through. And we weren't. You just don't know, especially for a first film. I mean, it does get a little bit easier, but with the first film, there was no guarantee that it would be received at all. So the fact that it was well received was really surprising to us, and it was really it meant a lot, to be quite honest. Because sorry, my cat. It meant a lot in that it justified a lot of the sacrifice that me and my partners made to make that film. We went through a lot, especially first film. It's very hard to get people to believe in you that you're going to do something without any kind of roadmap saying, like, I've done this before. So it just felt good. It felt really good, and it justified the hard work.
That really resounded very deeply with me. When you were on the radio program, you mentioned that if it's not grueling, if you're not putting in like 23 hours a day, then you're doing something wrong. And at the time, I was juggling, well, I still am, a million jobs, and my passion is writing as well. So it resounded with me because it's necessary. I think that if you don't give 100% or more than 100% of you, you'll never achieve anything that you truly want to. So I really admire you for your dedication.
Thank you.
So when you were filming that, there must have, some of those scenes are so powerful. When you filmed them and you were looking at them, you must have known, hey, this is something big, or this is some. Did that feeling cross you?
No, because you're working.
Yeah.
You're just and when you're filming, it's so stressful, and there's so many moving parts that you have to be aware of that you're just focused on the goal. There are little moments where you can stop and say, whoa, that was cool. Like, there was, interviewing former President Vincas in the presidential palace, and that moment where you're getting the tour, picking which room you can film in, and those moments are like, wait, is this really happening? Or like when we were filming the barn burning, there were those moments. There was a lot of waiting around that day. We had to stand for hours and hours waiting for the light to be right. And there are those moments where you're just looking around like, this is weird, But then you have to stay focused to make sure that you're getting what you need. It's a job like any other job,
Your film, initially, as soon as it was released, it was just an immediate, overwhelming, positive response. How did that affect future projects, both in the positive and in the negative, if there was a negative at all?
The future projects part, well, on a personal level, it does help because, like I said, the first film, and I have friends who are making their first films who are going through it now, and I'm kind of looking like, it's really hard to get people to believe in you. you know, I always tell people who are starting out on projects like this is that, you know, you have to grow really thick skin and get used to a lot of rejection. You're going to be, you know, you have to make a film, you have to ask for a lot. You always have to be asking for things, and you have to assume that everyone's going to say no. So it's like that little pleasant surprise of someone saying, like, yes, I am going to help you. And you're like, whoa, how did that happen? And when those moments, you know, like even though I'm on film number 2 now, those moments when people do come forward and offer help, or they you know, say yes to you know, a proposal or something like that, it is still like, you know, that's still there. Like, wow, that's cool that someone actually believes in this. Because again, even though it's film number 2, you still have to get people to believe in you, and you know, that's hard work. I was talking with a very famous director who's on film number 10 now. I met him at a film festival, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, yeah, it's still just as hard as it was to, you know, for the first one, because you're asking a lot of people a lot of things, and you know, some of it's money, some of it's creative, some of it's favors, some of it's connections, like whatever it is. When people believe in you, it's incredibly heartwarming. So yeah, Invisible Front did help with that. But there's an equation to it in that, you know, to make Invisible Front, we were asking for a lot to make that film, but that film is much smaller than the film I'm making now. It's like a fraction of the size. So now, you know, it's like dealing on the same issues. You know, like if I were to make another film that was exactly the same size as Invisible Front and all that, yeah, it'd be easier. But I'm making something bigger, something that's going to be, because as an artist, you have to grow and you have to do better and better. So you need to ask more, you know. So it's still like, it's helped, but it's still hard. You know, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Totally, that's very well explained. Can you share with us a little about your current project?
Yeah, I'd love to. The film I am doing now, it's called The Last Stand. Tentatively, it's called Last Stand. And it is not a documentary, it's a narrative film. So it's a drama that will be based in the historical context of January 13th, 1991. So the film will center on a Lithuanian American journalist who is there in the heart of the events in January. You know, the story takes place over the course of a week from January 7th to January 14th, and her personal journey. So there was, and this is based on reality, there were a lot of Lithuanian, Canadian Americans, some of them still live in Lithuania, who went there to, let's see, is that your cat or your dog?
That's my daughter.
So, who were there to help the Landsbergis government, help Sąjūdis, and help, you know, the movement. And these people, they had some really fascinating stories because they come from America into the heart of the rebirth of an independent nation that has been under Soviet oppression for 50 years. And it's a very unique perspective on this, because if you were to just make a film about January 13th, that's like, oh, tanks come in, people stood there and sang, and some people were killed, the end, blah. No one's going to care. No one will watch that film. And so we're using the device of these two main characters, one of whom is a Lithuanian American journalist, to really tell an engaging story that transcends whether it was January 13th or not. I mean, the historical events, you know, mesh into the personal journey of this person, but it's a story that will be approachable by non-Lithuanians, which is always my goal as a filmmaker. It's like, yes, the film takes place in Lithuania, but I want someone in China to watch it and relate to it because they had Tiananmen Square, and they can feel like, oh wow, that was my father's experience during Tiananmen Square, but it's in the context of this, you know what I mean, like that personal journey, and that's why people go to see movies.
Right.
So, you know,
can't wait.
But we are currently in the development process, which is the hardest part, because this is where we are talking to investors, trying, you know, to sort the finances, raise money, fine-tune the story, work with the screenwriter, different producers throughout Europe, I have a partner here in the US, so it's very difficult, and the amount of work so far in less than a year that I put into on Last Stand is already 10 times the amount of work that I had to put into getting Invisible Front going. And I had to, Jonas, who's like a equal partner in that, like he and it's just an incredible amount of work, but I'm really excited. I really, I believe strongly in the project, and I can't wait till I can share it with the world.
We can't either. So by Jonas, do you mean Jonas Omen, the man?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, my partner. He's working on this film with me as well, but more like he's the official historical consultant. He's doing the research, and he's doing some really cool stuff of finding the details, because the entire film is going to be historically accurate.
Wonderful.
We're not fudging any of the details, and we will be revealing things in the film that people have not known about what happened in Parliament during that week. Some really incredible stories that we've learned, some things that Jonas has dug up that are, Youtube are going to be like, wow, I can't believe, like that's incredible.
Can't wait.
So they're not even stories that we know about yet, or, the general public knows about yet. So.
Can't wait. So can you mention a little bit about January 30th? What's going to be going on?
Oh, in Chicago, yeah. So, saying this is one of the things where people believe in you, it's really heartwarming. There's a woman in Chicago, Ruta Michelena, who is organizing this event. I was introduced to her through another woman, Niola Kostas, who I met in Yotava, like this connection to the people who support the arts and believe in these things. And so they are hosting an event in Lamont on January 30th, and by this point, I think most people who would be interested in coming to an event where I'm sitting there, to talk, has seen the film. So what we're going to do instead is show unreleased clips. I'm going to show things that maybe you haven't seen yet, or kind of give insight that, watching the film at home on Netflix, you wouldn't have known, and kind of like maybe, actually, that's what I was working late on last night, is coming up with material, because we did 55 interviews. We have, hundreds of hours of interview footage that hasn't even ever been seen. So this would be an opportunity to show more than what was actually in the film.
That's great.
And the other part of it is also to start, getting the ball rolling on, what the next film is about, and introducing that film so people, can learn more about that. So it's going to be fun. It's a little different than a normal screening, so it's going to kind of be fun to open up the archives and show people things they haven't seen before.
Is there anyone, if someone would like to attend, is there someone they can contact?
Yeah, there's a Facebook invite that's going around, and then there's also Ruta Mitrigena, and I can send you her info. I'll send you the poster for the event. They made a really nice poster.
Nice.
I'll send you that event, and you can contact them about because I've actually never been to Lamont, so I've never even been to the facility. I've always heard about the Lithuanian, like the pillar of Lithuanianness in Chicago, but I've only actually been to Chicago, not to Lamont. So it's a new one for me, but I think it'll be fun. I'm excited to do it.
Wonderful. I think it's an outstanding event, and it's great that you're going to be releasing things that no one's seen yet. I think that's thrilling.
Yeah.
So we finish off every episode of our Skype series with the same two questions. The first one is lighthearted. It's food. Your favorite Lithuanian food. Those of us that don't speak Lithuanian or speak only a little, we're still culturally tied together by our love of Lithuanian dishes. So, Vincai, what is yours?
Mine is specifically my grandmother on my mother's side. So my mother's shaktibashi, the cold beef stew. I would dare anyone's grandmother to present a bowl of shaktibashi that will come close to my grandmother's. So that's, hands down, that's it. Like a hot summer day, going to visit them in Long Island and sitting down. And I think also it was the atmosphere of it, of like immediately while, talking to you, like my grandmother passed away a long time ago already, and I can immediately smell, taste, and feel and be in that living room, in their dining room, that exact moment. Like it all comes right back. Just say it, and it comes right back to me. So it's more than the food; it's the experience. It's the history, that thing that connects us all. So you're absolutely right. It is, something. Even as a little kid, it connected me to my grandparents, which connected back to their lives in Lithuania before they had to leave. So yeah, that's it, hands down.
Thank you so much. That was beautifully expressed. I completely agree with you. Now, if we may finish off this on a more serious note, we ask every guest, and the answer is always unique to that particular guest. What does Lietuvybė, or being Lithuanian, mean to you?
That's an excellent question. And there's 3 million answers to that question. We, as Lithuanians, we're connected by something that more than a language, more than geography. We're connected by a culture that is rooted in belief. It's something that we all, the second you meet another Lithuanian, it's like, boom. I was at a dinner last night, big event, and the woman sitting next to me, like, oh, my grandmother was from Lithuania. And immediately I'm sitting there telling her, like, okay, so here's when you go to Lietuva. I'll set you up with my cousin here or a friend there, and they'll show you this, and you do this. And I, literally over the course of 10 minutes in the dinner, I made an itinerary for her and her sister to go to Lietuva and what they're going to do and how. And it just was so instantaneous for me, because I'm like, of course. Now, if you were to sit down next to someone who's French and say, oh, my grandmother's French, you'd be like, okay. You're not French. You're just whatever. It's a large, everyone knows that. Anyone will hop on a plane. And, I said to this woman, I was just like, you don't have to be a Lithuanian to go to Lithuania. And in the same thing is, you don't have to live in Lithuania to be Lithuanian. We all have this thing. And it does come from a pride that, centuries ago we were a massive empire, and then it dwindled down and we were oppressed. And especially in these times when people like myself, my father was a DP from Lithuania, so I was raised constantly, every day, this desire of my father's that he would love to go home, that he misses home, and so it's inherent in our blood of it was what happened to our country was wrong. But because of that being forced out, that's why we're here, and that's why I was born here by geopolitical forces that happened. But there's a magic to having the shared heritage that everyone immediately. And I saw this a lot screening the film around the U.S. Every screening we did, whether it's Chicago or L.A. or New York, people immediately identified with yes, I come from these people. I am proud to be of this tiny little thing. And it's impossible to put in words, really, but I think that it's a feeling, and it has every generation has a new take on it. I mean, I go to some of the, they call them the Thirtieth, the third generation, the third wave of Lithuanians who are here now. They are now doing the same Lithuanian Saturday schools that I went to as a little kid, because my father, would take me to Elizabeth, New Jersey on Saturday mornings to learn Lithuanian. And then a few weeks ago, I went to Elizabeth, New Jersey. Now the Saturday schools on a Sunday, they had their Christmas play, and they asked me to come and give a DVD to, in the lottery or whatever. And I brought my kids and my wife, and I was like, wow, I'm looking around, I'm like, these people who they came here after the 1990s, and they are doing what my parents did. They're creating their own little Lithuania in New Jersey, and they did this amazing like Christmas. But they're doing it 1,000 times better than like we had it. Like I was really impressed. I was like, wow, we just whatever. We'll get into that later. But they did this really. It's just like, and I was like inspired. I was like, yeah, it's like my kids should go to Lithuanian school, and but it's like their children will be like me and my generation, where their parents came from this magical place, and they're trying to keep that magic here, and they will grow up appreciating it. We hope. But I think it just comes from being a very small people. There's a unifying thread that we're very proud that we're from something.
Completely agree. There is that unifying thread. Like we're family. We're all relatives, and we're all relatives of this magical, beautiful place called Lietuva. Thank you so much, Vincent.
Thank you.
It's really been a privilege and an honor, and we can't wait to share more information on your upcoming project.
Great. Thank you again for letting me talk for a little while. It's always fun. You're doing really great work with the website and the video series and all that. So, keep it up. You're doing good stuff.
Thank you. It means a lot coming from you, honestly. It's been a privilege.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Yeah.